Hi, this is Robert Clinky-Beard with the Commercial Landscaper Podcast. We're going to take 20 minutes to deliver some amazing content from accomplished leaders and business owners to provide you with some value to scale your business and to become a better leader and push yourself out of your comfort zone. We encourage you to like and share with everyone to spread our messages. I'm super excited to announce our new partnership with Weathermatic. For most landscape companies, irrigation is an untapped gold mine for growth and profit, but labor and process problems stand in the way. So Weathermatic has created a partnership to package mobile technology and software with proven business solutions to tackle the perennial irrigation challenges and take your operations to a whole new level. I encourage you to reach out to Weathermatic and learn more. Cheers, everyone. Hi, this is Robert Clinky-Beard with the Commercial Landscaper Podcast. I'm really excited to be joined today by Jarrett Herold. Jarrett, good to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you as well.
So I think the last time we spoke was probably at least a year and a half ago. For our new audience, people join us all the time, but just tell us a little bit about your background, first of all.
So I grew up on the East Coast in the landscaping industry, originally with Brickman, and then almost 10 years ago, moved out to the Bay Area in California, and most recently was working at Brightview and the operations excellence team before starting Electric Sheep about 4 years ago.
So, we're just talking offline there, and you mentioned that you've made some pivots with Electric Sheep. So just talk through some of those changes, because I think it'll obviously set us up nicely just to dive into a couple of topics.
Our main goal hasn't really changed, and that's to build embodied AI. So what does that mean to anybody is, if you think about a ChatGPT product, I think a lot of people are familiar with from OpenAI. So what they've built for language, we're building for outdoor robotics. Originally, we started selling robotics as a service to landscaping companies, but it's really challenging. Recently, we've taken this upon ourselves to vertically integrate our own landscaping business. So that's the big pivot on our end. So what that means is, so far we've acquired 2 profitable landscaping businesses, and we've started to deploy our own robots and a suite of other automation tools into those businesses to drive margin expansion. Yeah, we can get into it, I'm sure, in our discussion, but in our opinion, that's really the only way to build a robotics business for the outdoors and to do so profitably.
I mean, what were some of the challenges, first of all, you were facing?
Generally, like the landscape industry's low margin, and there's a lot of things going on a daily basis within a branch of a landscaping company. But in order to have a new technology like this succeed, you need a deep integration with the OpCo and the technology company. So again, just using OpenAI as an example, this is really why it took them like hundreds of millions of dollars to build ChatGPT, because they worked with a company called Scale AI to provide actual human feedback. It's way more efficient and quick to do so with language. These are just prompts where you're correcting responses and so on. It's a lot harder to do that in the physical world out on a job site with people, but that's really what's required. Beyond that, obviously they spend a lot of money on compute. There's more costs associated with just the human aspect of it, but doing that as an OEM landscape co-relationship is pretty challenging because incentives, as hard as you try to make them aligned, they're not going to be quite as aligned as what we've achieved so far as a vertically integrated business. That means at the end of the day, the landscaping company, your job is to get the work done for your customer. And then our team is obviously heavily incentivized to make the technology progress. And then we have to provide a backstop, and which is what a lot of companies are doing now. So where it falls short, you're picking up the slack for the landscape partner. So those are kind of the hard parts about this. What we're able to do when it's all under our own roof is we can deeply align incentives. So we can make sure that we're getting work done for our customers, but we're also prioritizing the progression of autonomy in the field. And we've figured out ways to do this over the past year or two where it's not disruptive to our field team, but we're doing so in more of an automated fashion. So these are some of the things, you can do really well when it's all under your roof.
I mean, obviously, I think most people are aware of the big advances they made on, grass cutting, lawn maintenance, but talk to me a little bit about, some of the other challenges with landscaping, automation, shrubs, trees. I mean, has that stuff out there that is tying into that incentive?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, we see mowing as a really good beachhead for automation. So when we think about embodied AI, it's really like how we can use automation to interact with the world. The mechanized tasks like mowing and snow blowing and anything where it's an operator driving a machine, that's the low hanging fruit. And it's a huge opportunity in terms of automation. But at the end of the day, like our goal is to really drive automation across a lot of parts of landscaping, even what we would describe as the very dexterous tasks, pruning and anything where you're using your hands more than you're using a machine. But again, what's hard to build with a vendor relationship is that patience and like long-term vision, where again, it's hard to do as a landscaping company because you have work to get done today. And it's hard to think 6 months down the road, let alone 10 years down the road. We take a long view on a lot of this, and we're able to be creative in how we're able to impact margins of our business today while creating, a barrier of patience between our development team and our landscaping team in terms of, how we're charting wins over that period of time.
Now, when you talk about your pivot to then acquiring companies, I mean, is that basically just allowing you to just get a lot more hands-on, almost like trial and error?
Yeah, it really comes down to the data piece, like we were just talking about with an OpenAI. To give you a bit more of an idea, so we really operate these as two separate businesses. So there's Electric Sheep. Robotics is kind of like the hold co, if you will. It operates and expands our opco, which we call Verdant Landscaping. It expands their margins over time. Verdant's business is all about acquiring and growing landscaping organically and inorganically. They work together, but they have very different risk return profiles. This is the challenging part about what we're doing now is it's hard to find a perfect investor fit that understands landscaping, understands growth capital, and also understands deep tech. We're raising capital from both types of investors and those that do both, but they're fewer and far between. The way the holdco will work is that they're operating with a management fee from the opco from Verdant, and we're carrying the lift of integrating technology and so on. So they're really two different businesses that have one management structure that allows us to tie incentives together for long-term planning and so on. But it also allows us to kind of exercise a more traditional private equity backed landscaping consolidation play. So we get to talk to, family offices and private investors alongside venture capitalists.
Sounds all very intriguing. The companies that you've acquired so far, I mean, have you seen some positive results?
I won't trivialize the complexity of acquisition and integration. We have a killer team in terms of our integration. And step one is making sure we're not destroying the earnings of the businesses that we acquire. And if you talk to any of the owners or the operators of those businesses, what they'd say is not much has changed except for, getting up on certain platforms that a larger business should run on, but the day-to-day, the people, we want to make sure that we're keeping the right things in place and we don't have any attrition. Beyond that, we've slowly started to integrate our fully electric autonomous mow crews. What that looks like is a bit different nowadays. We've started to work with a smaller mower platform. What that allows us to do is instead of a 2,000 pound 60-inch machine that you don't have a lot of flexibility of how many you can deploy and move around, we're working with what right now is a 25-inch electric mower we call the Ram. We can put anything from 6 to 8 of these in a van, which again changes the profile of how our workflows deliver this service and the type of people we can hire if you don't have to drive an F-250 in a long trailer and so on. How we've started to roll out at least our autonomous mowers is through mow crews, where, I know you're familiar with this, but it's kind of an older practice, at least in the West Coast, where you pull out mow, blow, trim from a full service site, and then you have full service maintenance crew come do the rest on some other cadence. So we've directly plugged in an autonomous mow crew to replace the large format mow crew. And so we've done that with a few crews in each of these businesses so far. And then down the line, every single crew will have some amount of these Rams, as we call them, on their trucks. And how the product itself has evolved, we don't think of ourselves as just a robotics company or we don't just build the products. We're working really hard on developing this AI model, the brain that powers the machine, and then the workflows, that's ultimately requires a lot of time and attention because it doesn't happen as quickly as, a ChatGPT kind of comes together. So that's the evolution of the product. And last thing I'll share is, whereas we could talk probably for an hour about traditional robotics versus what really like a machine learning led product is, but one requires a lot of teaching and maps, and it kind of relegates you to a certain type of site. Whereas with a fully machine learning based robot, which is what we built with the RAM, our operators are just setting it down on a new piece of grass has never been on before, hitting go, and they're stepping away because it's not a 2,000-pound machine that's moving, 6 or 7 miles per hour. It's a small machine that they're putting a swarm of around their work areas. So that's opened the floodgates in terms of, how we can extract value, what workflows look like, what teams look like. That's been really fun.
No, I mean, it's cool. I mean, I'm sure that's probably helping with labor needs. I mean, most peer group meetings I go to or talk to companies, labor's the biggest challenge. Whereas, sounds like this is going to certainly smooth out the curve a little bit. But then, one quite of the questions I thought was, I mean, are you, and this is, I suppose, ties into, if companies are potentially interested in and maybe they're looking to get acquired, I mean, does this help with their multiples that you're now regarded as a tech company rather than a landscape company?
Yeah, that's definitely the vision. Is the private equity play is kind of a pretty simple to understand valuation arbitrage. You're buying companies at a smaller multiple, growing the overall like annual recurring revenue, so you can fetch a higher multiple. More to it than that, I know, but what we're able to do is over time transform the earnings of that business. I would also argue that for the most part, landscape services tend to be somewhat of an undifferentiated service product in a market. Sure, there's companies that do this a lot better than others, but when we're able to expand operating margins, it means we'll be able to be more aggressive in pricing differentiation and service levels and those types of things, where again, over a longer period of time, we'll be able to also change how we can grow organically. But all of that, so really the pace of growth, the expansion of our margins, those are the things that are the proof that automation's working, and why you're able to fetch a higher multiple, like a tech multiple on top of what the traditional private equity playbook is.
Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing here, but I imagine tech multiple is 15, 20 plus.
Especially before 2022, there was some tech multiples that were much, much higher than that. We're a pretty pragmatic group. We don't need to do that in order to be successful. And there's a lot of investors, family offices that are putting their money into private equity firms to roll up services, businesses like landscaping and HVAC and so on, that have pretty modest returns over, 5 or 10 years. And we think that this can really change the upside to those type of investors.
What's the biggest where'd you get the most pushback when you're talking to business owners, or maybe they're looking at your equipment? Is it just over their head in terms of just they don't quite wrap their head around?
I think most people get it. And, the things that, so I'll answer, I guess, the opposite first. Things people get most excited about is, at the end of the day, we have the same access to capital as any other big player does. We're extremely like people and culture focused. Not that everyone is. There's definitely people that are optimizing for a dollar amount. But what owners have gotten excited about is you're placing the business you've built over decades, including your team and your book of business, with a formidable company that is going to offer a competitive service and put that team in a place to win, over the long term. So that's what's excited people. They can see that this is the future. That's been the case since we've started. And what's really excited the investor community is the reactions that landscape owner operators have had to robots. It seems obvious as soon as they watch a ZTR or one of these small format mowers do a zero turn and hold the stripe on run its return. That's always been the case. Pushback in terms of owners we've talked to, there hasn't been a ton other than just track record. Obviously, there's some level of safety of selling to a company that you've known for a long period of time, but we've actually built up our landscaping team within Verdant pretty significantly beyond myself and some others. That was the early days. Now we've hired people with much deeper experience from the big guys doing this consolidation work, and then we have some others waiting in the wings to join us once we kind of start to hit our larger goals. So our plan is to grow to a few $100 million over the next 2 or 3 years. Once we start to execute on that plan, I think you'll see a lot of leaders of the landscaping industry want to come join a company like ours, which we find exciting.
Awesome. Yeah. And I think the other opportunity that I start to think about is, you're looking for maybe a different type of person to join your team. Somebody who's maybe more tech savvy. Maybe there's, I know a lot of people complain about millennials or Gen Z or people like that, but if they have got strength in some of the technology piece, then maybe some of them are joining your team, and maybe the landscape industry does become a bit more attractive to sort of the younger generation and their parents.
Firstly, any company that's growing, I think this is true for a lot of the consolidation platforms out there, is it creates so much opportunity within those businesses. If they're growing at such a rate, there's a ton of opportunity, and we've seen that within our business over the past few years as well. Folks joining us as like a robot operator essentially a few years ago are now prototyping and building robots, as sort of like manufacturing engineers. So there's a lot of opportunity for different type of profiles to join, especially at the crew level, since that's really what's changing at the most rapid pace. I wouldn't say to join a company like ours, you need to have that background, because at the end of the day, we really do operate these as 2 separate businesses. And we're finding, we have a whole suite of technology tools that we're building and deploying within our businesses, even beyond autonomous mowing, that we think will help us grow as a business, will help us strengthen our operations. And when you have something different to offer your customers, that's an exciting proposition. So I think anybody that is just hungry out there will kind of see that as we sort of progress along. And then, at the end of the day, we're not here to compete. Our goal is to move the industry forward. We think that this is the best way to do that. There's going to be a point in time where once these products mature, we'll make them available to the broader industry. But over the next few years, this is really the best way to progress things and make sure that we have a proven model with which to extract value with an autonomous mower or any other tool for that matter. And it might look a little different how that comes together. So excited to share that with the rest of the industry.
Couple final questions. In terms of, if I was to slide behind the eyes of a client, a customer who's owns an office builder or something, what are some of or maybe an HOA manager, what are some of the benefits are they going to see?
So I'll start with just the electrification piece of things. A lot of big businesses, if we're working either at a municipality or a corporate park, they have decarbonization goals and so on. In lockstep with our automation, we're deploying fully electric crews, so electric handhelds, electric large format manual mowers alongside the autonomous mowers and so on. That's a big goal for us as well, and customers care a lot about that. Where I would say is that the traditional landscaping company, there's not yet really a business case to accelerate electrification, unless you're in California, some places where policy is driving that. The other thing is we believe that a smaller format mower is providing a better cut. You don't have these giant mowers running around, which are a little bit intimidating. I think you'll see when there's a swarm of the Rams out there are people, playing around it and taking pictures and videos. It's very unintimidating. So our customers are excited to see that. And we definitely look as we grow for brands that really align with the technology piece of what we're doing, because they'll see this is in our DNA as what we do as a company. We want our service providers to be the same. That's what we've seen as far as customer responses. And they can also see that, this is worth a bet in the long term, because a company like Verdant and our OpCo and Electric Sheep, we're going to have access to tools and talent that maybe other landscaping companies are struggling to find or are highly dependent on H2Bs and other types of things. So I think that this builds confidence in their minds that we have access to the right tools to deliver good service over a long period of time.
Awesome. Final question. How do people find out more about you, about your company, when they want to explore some of the different options you have for them?
I would say visit our website is sheeprobotics.ai. also does a pretty good job of explaining what we do, maybe more than I just have. So especially like that, if you're interested in the technology or you're interested in investing, those are all good routes to reach out that way. And then we're over LinkedIn. You can find us Electric Sheep Robotics. We're active there as well.
Awesome. Jarrett, really appreciate your time today. Sounds like you've got some really cool, interesting stuff going on. I appreciate you coming on and sharing.
Yeah,
and,
no, thanks so much for having me again. Yeah, really appreciate it. It was fun to chat. Thanks, Robert.
Okay, thanks, Jarrett. Take care. Hopefully that was pure dead brilliant to you, and you got some great takeaways for your business or your leadership role. This is Robert Clinkybeard, and I'd love to get you and your friends to join us in a future journey. So please subscribe to the various podcast channels or visit the commerciallandscaper.com or wilson360.com. Big thank you again to our partner Weathermatic, and I really encourage you to reach out to them and see about irrigation solutions or partnership with them. Hopefully you have a pure dead brilliant day. Cheers, everyone.